Well, day 6 of the road trip started with me getting back on the road and heading for a place called Sakonakon, which I'd never heard of before. But incidentally, the day before, a friend of mine in America had suggested that maybe I should go and visit a friend of his, an old friend of his who lives in this place, Sakonakon. And given the high esteem in which I hold this friend, the fact that he would recommend the acquaintance of somebody was a good enough reason for me to ride another few hundred kilometers in completely the opposite direction to where I thought I was going to go. Now, as you can see, I'm a lot further down south now, and so the terrain has flattened out. So that means straight roads, flat roads, which are not quite what I prefer, but it's always worth it to meet somebody interesting. So here's me sitting beside a yellow duck at a petrol station, refreshing myself on the long haul to Sakonakon. Now, as to why Thai service stations often have gigantic fiberglass rubber duckies, I cannot enlighten you. It is just one of these mysteries of life which I have resigned myself to accept, and every now and then I sit in the shade of said gigantic fiberglass rubber ducky. When I first started riding motorcycles on the road, a friend of mine told me that I would find that a lot of the important moments in my life would now happen at fuel stations, and they weren't wrong. In the evening, I rode down winding village streets in the dark, looking for a place called Fat Mango Pizza, and eventually Google Maps went ding ding and told me that I had arrived. Arrived where indeed? It was just me and the soy dogs out there in a deserted street in a small village, but soon enough, people materialized. I was in fact in the right place. And despite appearances, this was in fact a place where you can buy delicious pizza. However, I was not a customer. I was there to party with the owner, the friend of a friend who I had come to meet. David turns out to be excellent company and also a very successful podcaster who was able to give me a lot of really good advice concerning mostly how not to starve to death whilst riding around doing what I love. And honestly, I think that's the best kind of advice. So thank you, David. I appreciate it very much. As an aside, if you want to look up his work, you should Google the Inspirational Living podcast. And you should also look up a website called mysakonakon.com. On the one hand, you can get lessons on how to live a good life, and on the other hand, you can get some tour guide information about how to appreciate this amazing part of the world. Which is why the following day I found myself going all Indiana Jones as I hiked up to the top of a very, very high, very, very old, abandoned Khmer era temple on top of a nearby mountain. Before this part of the world was Thailand, it was part of the Khmer Kingdom, which we now would associate with Cambodia. And on top of the mountain, we have the magnificent ruins of this absolutely ancient temple. Hello, my lovely people. I am halfway up the 491 steps to this Khmer temple that crowns the hill. I'm slightly out of breath. There's still a few steps to go. This temple is called Pratat Phupek, and it was supposedly built in the 11th or 12th centuries, going by the Western calendar. So that makes it nearly a millennium old. As you can see, it's carved out of sandstone. And it's probably giving you Tomb Raider chills right now. Unfortunately, I did not find Lara Croft here, but I did find an incredibly ancient and incredibly special place. To this day, there remains a Buddhist shrine in the center of the temple. The the walls of which tower above you in suitable severity. If you come with me around the corner, you will find in the inner sanctum the contemporary Buddhist shrine. Even aside from the ancient ruins themselves, this mountaintop is a very special place. You can look out way across the district, and there is this cooling breeze that caresses your face after you've made the arduous climb to the top. After I had finished playing Indiana Jones, I headed slightly southward to catch a road that is colloquially known as the Snake, which I think tells you all you need to know. It has some beautiful sweeping curves. What I was not expecting were the monkey hazards. I guess you could call them hazards or maybe traffic calming devices. But yeah, either way, there are monkeys all over the road. So that was interesting. The verdict was that the Snake is a very nice little bit of road, but unfortunately it is little. It does not go forever. So I headed back towards the mountains, and I was careful to take this particularly lovely bridge, which goes over this rather lovely reservoir in this rather lovely weather. Blue sky, blue water. All of those boats you can see out on the reservoir, they're actually kind of a houseboat style, but effectively what they are floating restaurants. And I believe you can sort of reserve your own private floating restaurant platform, and off you go out on the lake, and you get your food and your beer, and everything is delightful. Had I had more time up my sleeve and perhaps some friends to boot, I would have been very, very tempted to try one of these little floating restaurant platforms. But anyway, as it was, I did my sightseeing from my motorcycle, and I kept heading back towards the mountains because, frankly and honestly, I was really, really tired. Not sure why I was so tired today, but I really just needed to take a nap. I was nearly at Konkan when I succumbed to the need for a nap, and I stopped at this rather cute roadside cafe for some matcha and some downtime. Unfortunately, it was at this point that I also realized that it was another long weekend in Thailand. Google helpfully informed me that all of the hotels in the next town were booked out and for miles around. Oh dear, I thought. I am going to be sleeping under my motorcycle in a car park again.